thinking, you know, my kids are on this. What is this all about? I actually prefer Instagram, I think, more than anything, just because it's easy. And it seems to be, I don't know if you find this, but it seems to be much kinder and much more positive than I think Facebook is these days. I try not to spend too much time on Facebook, except when I'm live with you.
Well, I am in all platforms. Basically, Instagram and Facebook are definitely
Me too.
the ones. That's where I connect with my public, with the followers, where I can bring the products and service from my clients to them, educate them on them. And, you know, that is the journalism with the purpose that has my company, Money
Right.
Actions, that it's been 7 years for me. You said you were 18 years or 13 years as CBS5?
It was almost 13 years,
13. So
but I've been out of mainstream TV news for almost 5. It's going to be 5 July 10th.
Flies live. Time flies. So I was 18 years with Univision. I resigned in 2013. So it's been this July is going to be 7 years already.
Wow.
So
wow.
They say that in business, you make it if you survive the first 5 to 7 years. So I'm hoping we're doing that right. Right? We're in the right route. And like we were talking about, social media is a blessing, particularly now in this pandemic. Those organizations, those companies that they're not connecting to the target market audience that they need their service or their product, they're losing big time. You're Latina, I'm Latina. We're different type or generations of Latina.
Yes.
Second or third generation, if
I'm fourth.
Fourth. I am first generation, right? I immigrated here from Sonora with my parents. So we're so complicated as a community because we have the Latino last name. We look probably the same. My sister next to me is blonde, light eyes. So we are coming all shapes and colors.
Yes.
It's not only needed to speak the language, but to connect with us culturally. That's one of the things that my company has been really focusing. And I wanted to talk to you about this so we can explain a little bit better. So the customs, the culture that you and your family have may be a little bit different than what my family has because of the different generations we represent as Latinos, but yet we have the same basis of beliefs, priorities, you know, family oriented, 100%. So we're complex, but it's easy to understand us those that put the time in learning about our culture. Am I mistaken?
Right. Well, I think what you're trying to say is that we have a work ethic that comes from our culture. Very, very important. We have a connection and a priority when it comes to family that comes from our culture. And we also have, I think, this need to use our platforms to help create kindness, positivity, and also advocate for social justice, which I think is more important now than ever before. Last week, I spent a lot of the time just being silent and really trying to listen. And I was thinking about, you know, we are talking about the Black experience right now, but it also brings up feelings of the brown experience as a person of color. You know, we talk about the white privilege. Well, for me, I also have brown privilege because if you stand me next to my mom and my sister, they're darker than me. If I go down to Rodeo Drive and I walk into a store, chances are I'm going to be treated a lot differently than my mom will. And so that's emotional.
It is.
That's very emotional.
So my father, and I'm very proud of my family, I come from that background just like yours, and I can see the pride and the emotion in it, because if they have not experienced, they cannot understand. We sympathize with the African-American, the Black community right now, because we know exactly what they're going through, because we have this to a certain level also. My accent, if you hear it, as many events I have MC and trainings I do and all that I do in my business now and in my background of journalism, this is me. I have an accent. You're Latina without an accent. So we come in all shapes, forms, and special, elements that describe us. My sister next to me, like I said, you know, she's light skinned. My dad is light skinned. My mom is dark. I'm more on the dark side. I remember going to a very well-known shopping center here to buy one of my gala dresses for an event. You and I have MC a lot of those events together also. And I didn't feel like getting ready. You know, sometimes you don't want to have the facade or the face or your mask on, like TV 24/7. That was our world.
I did this just for you today, by the way.
I've been with the bun. And that's the beauty of social media. The people know me just like I am, with no makeup, with the bun, just woke up, dealing with my kids, dealing with life issues. And that's the beauty of being yourself and reinventing yourself where I am. But where I was going with that conversation, the way I was treated there, because I look just like what I was doing that. I finished cleaning my house, took a shower, did a bun, no makeup, and went to the store to get my gala dress. So the person that took care of me did not give me good customer service, was looking at me down, putting me down, and telling me I could not afford that dress. Somebody that worked in the alterations department recognized me without makeup or nothing. It made a big deal. Obviously, just that concept and respect out of my community, I did not purchase that dress. I struggled to look for another dress, but I did. I'm sure you had, or your
good for you,
have this kind of situations. That's a way to stand. Sometimes you don't have to blow or make a big deal or make it public, but just taking a stand and demanding respect for our community. We might not be dressed or the appearance, but we have the buying power of the Latino community, as you know, Catherine, is growing more than everything. And if there's organizations that are not connecting with our community, we like fancy cars, we like nice clothes, we like the brands, we like good homes also, and we work very hard. You talk about
we spend money. We spend money just like everybody else.
So I'm sure this kind of experience resonates also with you and with your family. How do you overcome that? And what would be your advice for those organizations or companies that are yet looking at us that way, instead of embracing our presence, our buying power, and the possibility of new clients for them?
Well, they have to. Well, are you talking about the business, or are you talking about the customer?
Both.
Because if you're the business, I mean, it is imperative that you educate yourself, that you understand that people do come in all shapes and sizes. You don't know what somebody's background is. And, you know, back in the early days of TV, you know, I had a boss tell me, you have to be open and kind to everybody, because you upset one person and they go and tell 10 friends, and they go and tell 10 friends, and so on and so forth. And so if you are trying to be a celebrated business in this community, first of all, you have to be involved in it. Exactly. You have to want to understand who your community is, and you have to be authentic. And with that authenticity comes education and information and being open to things. You know, like I said, last week I was very silent because I was just flooded with so many emotions. And you probably experienced this too, where on social media, you know, you saw these people that are your friends that were sharing things that you're now seeing another side of them. And it was very disheartening for me. I had a very difficult week.
I'm still getting
and I posted something on Friday, and I'll share it with you. We can disagree on many things and still remain friends. Racism isn't one of them. And I thought it spoke for itself, so I didn't write a caption, but I actually took it upon myself to defriend some people, unfollow some people, because at the end of the day, whether you're a business or a person who's a customer or just anybody, you have to be true to yourself and to your value system. And as we get older, I think you can probably agree with this, that we realize how precious time is, and that time should not be wasted on somebody who does not reflect how we feel about ourselves, about how we feel about our community, about how we feel about life. And it's just too precious to give away anymore. And I'm not going to give it away to somebody who doesn't bring value to my space. Maybe
love.
it's a little selfish.
No, it's not. You're standing
But
your
life is too
ground.
short. Yes.
Exactly. And I think we're in the same process in life. And I don't know if it has to do with age. I would have loved to be where I am when I was 25, let me tell you. But
Too.
that's the wisdom that comes with age, right? You said something very important. And I believe that this kind of pandemic, this situation, this tragic situations that we're experiencing as a country with the racism, with, you know, so many division and different points of views, and hurtful to us, to our kids, those of us that are parents. I'm sure you have to explain to your kids many ways what's going on in different aspects, but it is also giving us the opportunity to be selective to who we have around us, put our priorities in orders, focus us, and giving us the blessing and the opportunity to reinvent ourselves. You mentioned something very important also in your conversation, Catherine, when you said the loyalty of our community. We do a lot of customers trainings for corporations, for organizations, and different companies. And when it's the customer service training focus on how do you treat or you connect Latinos, because it's very important to know that we come not only different colors, different shapes, but also the different generations that we think different. We are Latinos, but we think different. And that's why it's great, this conversation that we're having. You get one Latino in your door, you get the whole family. But
that's
the
so
kind
true.
of treatment experience you give to them. We're very loyal. What has been the biggest learning or lesson experience that you have gathered, other than limiting who you spend time with, but personally as a woman in the process of growing? Because I know you're like me, you're always reinventing and see what else you can do through these hard times for yourself.
During the pandemic?
Yes.
Ooh, wow. I've gone through such an evolution, I feel like, in the last almost 12 weeks. When it happened, I was placed on furlough from a job that I really, really loved. And that was going out and telling stories. Back, you know, going back to my reporter days and just loving the stories.
Our passion.
Yes. And I was loving it. And so I was placed on furlough. So I think I went through a little bit of a period of grief and loss over that. But it's funny because I know we're so much alike in that it lasted for 2 days. And then I was, okay, now how do I turn this around?
Exactly.
So that's where conversations with Catherine started. I thought, you know what? Okay, so I can't physically go out with a camera and a photog, but I have this. And the bottom line is people are struggling and their stories still need to be shared. Exactly. So let me use.
Story has power is one of my hashtags. And
yes.
We all have the power to change other lives through our story.
Yes. So I have a voice. I have a platform. I'm good at what I do. I can just continue to do it right here like this. And so that's how that evolved. You know, people still have stories and they still have something to say. And we as a community still have a thirst for that connection and that information. So like you know, I just found a different way to continue to be that conduit. So that was the first evolution was, you know what? I can sit on the couch and binge on Netflix and eat bonbons or.
Which we have been doing a little bit.
A little bit. Or I can turn it around.
Are showing it already.
You look great as always. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, you know, just taking the time to remember that I had prayed for time for so long. And now God has answered my prayers. Now, is it the way I expected him to answer it? No. But I've been given a gift that I have wanted for so long. What am I going to do with that? So I worked on learning new things. I got organized. Like I said, I talk to my mom now more than ever before. My daughter came home because she's able to work remotely right now. So she came home. So I am absorbing that time with her because she's 23 years old. When she's allowed to go back into the office, she will be gone again. I will never have that time again. My son, as much as he hated being, you know, the stay-at-home orders, I had him here. He's going to be a senior next year. And a year from now, he'll be getting ready to go to college. I won't have that again.
Happy and empty
So
soon.
yes, so I've looked at that, the blessing of having this time that I may never ever have again, to be connected to the people that mean the most to me, and reading books and
Educating
taking,
ourselves. Yes.
yes, just expanding my mind, being able to take a breath. I just finished yesterday a 21-day meditation. It's 21 days of abundance. Meditating is something I had never done before. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm
We
too
have not
like you.
we have not talked
No.
before this conversation online. So we've been doing so much of the same that I'm just so excited. I'm laughing because I'm doing a 30-day one. So you're 21 day. And
So
like I said, I
it's
struggle.
challenging, right?
Yes, because I struggle to keep my mind quiet and at peace. You know, we're like on the go all the time, which is awful. But it's been a great experience for myself too. So I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm laughing.
Oh, that's okay. No, because the first couple of days I was like, I don't think I can do this. You know, I'm listening to Deepak Chopra, who has a most amazing voice, but even as wonderful as he is, I still find myself thinking about other things. So learning to do that has been an experience for me. So again, I think that the most important thing I've learned is to pivot personally and to embrace the things that I think we all take for granted. And that is that the little things are really the most important things.
I love to hear you speak like that. And let me tell you that knowing you for so long and being connected, even if it's only through social media, because we haven't had the time together as we used to, or we made it a time. I remember one particular moment that you impacted me very, very profound. I had been out of Univision. I resigned in 2013. You were going through the process of making the decision, and you were emceeing an event. Usually we would MC together, but this event you were emceeing, and you got very emotional on the podium as you spoke about the sacrifices that your kids had gone through because of your career in time. And as a mother and somebody that experienced exactly the same, I knew what that was, and I understood exactly where you were, and I knew you were going to make that leap of faith and that change soon. But it was so powerful. And the reason I'm bringing this moment to our conversation is because that's what I would love for us to do through this conversation. There's a lot of women, even men out there, that had sacrificed so much with our kids. You and I used to travel, reporting, special assignments, holidays, weekends. Whenever we were needed, we had to jump as they snapped the fingers. Back to time from special moments with our kids. And we don't regret it. I'm sure you don't regret it, because we're in the place, we did what we needed to do to provide for them, to be sometimes mother and father to them. You have a pair of beautiful kids, your daughter and your son. I have two boys. They're 21 and 14. So I totally understand where you are. And thank God to this pandemic, I have been growing closer to them. Finding things that we have in common, because they're boys and I'm the mother. So it's a struggle.
I know how that goes.
But that moment, you impacted my life, and you reassured me that what I have done by resigning to a nice position, outlook and side position, and just the job environment, the journalism environment, the TV environment, letting go of that paycheck that didn't come every 2 weeks in my bank, and hustling as an entrepreneur and learning how to do business was worthwhile, and it was the right thing I did. There are a lot of people watching us. What will you tell them about that experience, and why you don't regret doing that? Is I don't either, even with the ups and downs of this new lifestyle that we have chosen.
Mm-hmm. Whew, okay. So
I'm sorry, I was loaded.
No, because I was getting emotional as you were talking about it. I've had many conversations with my daughter, and she's written things to me that remind me that she is very of the understanding of what was sacrificed. She also understands that she missed out on a lot with me. I didn't just miss out on her. So it's imperative, first of all, that we give ourselves permission to be emotional about it. Mm-hmm. I don't regret my career at all for a second. I loved every single minute of it. And it gave me a life of abundance that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to provide for my kids. But as you said, I have no regrets for walking away, but I do want to make it clear that had I not had a wonderfully supportive husband, I don't know if I could have done it. So I always go back to that because I had a support system. So I think it's very important, first of all, if we're going to make a decision like that, we have to have some support, whatever that support looks like. We have to have somebody who's going to continue to give us the empowerment that we need to continue forward with the decision that we make. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, it was a very personal decision because I knew that when my ex-husband passed away, you know, I had to be present for them. Now, my daughter was 18 years old and she was going to go off to college anyway, but it was my son that I was primarily concerned about because he was 12. And you know, at 12 years old, you could go in either direction. So I knew I needed to be here. And while we had gone through ups and downs the last 5 years, I do feel that he is a good, inherently good kid because I was here. So you have to, when you make that decision, you have to know that you are doing it for the most beautiful, precious reason, and that is for your family.
Yes.
Then you have to sit down and think about, okay, what are my talents? Because we have so many of them, right? Sometimes it means talking to other people and asking them, what do you think are my talents? Because we're the hardest on ourselves. What are my talents? What can I do with those that I can monetize? Because as much as I would love to give my talents away for free, I can't.
I have learned the hard way. I was given out free things. You know, in business, you grow also.
You do. Sometimes you do because it's just you need to, but other times you can't because we have to be able to function.
Yes.
So once you figure that out, that's when you start reaching out to people, whether you know them personally or not, who are doing something of what you think you want to do, who are doing it successfully and maybe not successfully, because as much as it's important to talk to people who are doing it right, it's also important to talk to people who made mistakes. So you learn from those mistakes. So I think it's just being, having the courage to reach out to people and ask for help. That was a very big step for me because I'm so used to doing things independently and on my own. And I had women who responded so greatly to me. So I think that when you are in a position where you are comfortable, such as yourself, such as myself, we have to be open to other people who need help getting to that place. Always remember where you came from, that somebody had to help you along the way, and be willing to lend a hand.
Always.
So yeah, so it's just, bottom line is it's having faith. I have been rock bottom a couple of times in my lifetime, and
more than a couple of times.
yeah, and in those moments, it has always been this faith that I know that God will take care of me.
The faith, without that strength, without that pillar, important. And that's why it's so important to get to know our community. As different as we are, different segments of Latinos that you can talk about, first, second, third generation, we have things in common. Our values, our faith, I think is very strong. How we appreciate family, and we're so close knit, and why that is important to connect with us, because you don't get one Latino, you get the whole family once you get one, like I mentioned before. Interesting, and I'm so happy for you that you had that support at home when you make that decision. My experience, as you know, was different. It was different. So as I resigned to Univision and wanted to reinvent me professional and start this journey as an entrepreneur, a few months later, I also filed for divorce. So I didn't have not only my check coming in, I didn't have the other check that was in the bank account, and definitely the support system wasn't there. Yet, I've been blessed throughout my career as a single mom, even when I was married, to have the support of my family, my mother, my dad, my sisters. And one of the things that has been the biggest blessing in this 7 year as an entrepreneur for me has been the network close friends, because we know a lot of people working in TV, but true friends, the ones that are going to be there when you're going through those down the hill situations and knock on the door and they show up just to conversate with you, make you laugh, or come and lend a hand, whatever you need for the kids, so you can take up whatever the situation, financial in so many cases. I've been blessed to do that. Yet, it's not the common denominator when it comes to Latinas supporting Latinas. I've been blessed to do that. And one of my goals is to teach other women and also to support each other instead of destroying each other, to build up, to learn to celebrate our victories. Like, I know you and I, through social media, we always cheering each other up, but we don't see that in other environments. How important it is to have this type of mentality, to change and to learn to celebrate others' victories in order for us to go the same path.
Well, first of all, I think there's a place for everybody. And I also think that authenticity separates some people. So I think that my experience anyway, and probably yours too, when we started out, there was a lot of competition. You always had to feel like you were looking over your shoulder or you didn't want to take a day off because who are they going to put to fill in for me?
Yes.
And are they putting that person in because, they're looking at them to potentially take over from me?
And we had to prove
all those things
twice because we were female anchors. It was a different environment also.
It was always so much of that, just that angst and that negativity and that competitiveness and that worry and that concern. I'm so happy to not have that in my life anymore. But I feel like probably in the last 10 years, I've seen this evolution of women understanding that there is a place for all of us and that we all bring something unique and special to the table and that we all can work together and that we can all lift each other and that one person's success is success for all of us. So I have seen that. Every now and then I will see these elements of maybe somebody seeming to be that way, but I know that there's still that competitiveness in there. And I just choose to, there's this great button on Instagram where you can do a restriction where you're not unfollowing them, but you don't have to see them anymore.
I love it.
Yeah. So fortunately, that's not pervasive. That's like 1% of what I see anymore. And I wish I could pinpoint when that started, because as much as we like to talk about the Me Too movement helped bring us closer together and give us more of a collective voice, I really started to see it happening sooner than that. I just think that with these movements that we've seen since Me Too has given us a permission to be more transparent about it, I think, and more comfortable with it. Would you agree with that?
Totally. And I'll tell you what I've been doing in my environment. My success in business could not be possible without the people that have collaborated in my business, that have worked in my business, that had recommend my business. But they're key individuals. Then the day one that I launched my business, been there 100%. They don't take credit for nothing. They don't take commission for nothing, but they believe in my dream. And I am a true believer that when you contage people around you, you see the purpose. Everything I do has to have a purpose, whether it's the coaching that I do with some women, whether it's the production aspect, whether it's the speaking engagement or the production, and marketing that I do for companies, the trainings. I have to have a purpose beyond the business. My purpose is to impact life and to empower others through what I do. Storytelling is my passion. Yes, it is yours. That's why I do every Monday my motivational thing, and I tell stories. A lot of them are very personal stories. A lot of them are stories that I see in other people, and I take the lesson from that story and share it. Saying that, if it wasn't for Laura Madrid from 1190, where I had the show at the beginning, Monica Villalobos, that now is a CEO, a president of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I can also tell you Rhonda Kegel. I can tell you my close friends, my family, my sisters. people that no matter what happened, Diana Prieto Bernal from Ideas Medias, from,
Hi, Diana.
Yeah, I'm sure she's always sharing my stuff. She's always supporting. Those people that I just mentioned, those powerful women, they don't have a need to support me. They're thriving in their business and their environment.
Yes, they're not expecting something from you.
But we support each other. We have learned to collaborate, to help each other thrive in what we do. And that is something that I can tell you has been a blessing, whether it's racially, when it comes to spiritual feeding me. Because some days, like you said, you just feel so empty. You're so depleted. You're so frustrated. You're so tired. You get tired, emotionally tired. And having somebody that speaks a word of wisdom, that gives you a verse from the Bible, that picks you up at the moment, surrounding myself with amazing people like Nelly Escobedo, that is my sales manager, that has become also a friend. So that kind of being selective with the people you surround yourself. Remember, we're the average of the 5 people. We spend more time conversing more. And I can tell you the people I mentioned to you are the ones constantly getting mentors. So that is very important. So yet I've been alone on the journey as a single mom. I didn't have the support, but yet there's a support system that builds around us. And I'm sharing that so they can see the difference between have a partner that is the perfect ideal aspect of having the support. It still doesn't make it easy because there are a lot of changes in home, I can imagine. But there's opportunity. They cannot limit themselves, and they cannot be afraid of taking the risk to reinvent themselves like you have done, like I have done it.
Yeah. Well, and it's important that you be selective about the people that you do, like you said, encircle yourself with. I don't know if you've noticed, but for me, the older I get now and the wiser I become, the smaller my circle gets.
Yes.
Because it used to be that you wanted to have all these friends, and I do have so many friends, but the people that are going to be there thick and thin, from the bottom to the top, I find that circle gets a little smaller and smaller. And going back to just what you were saying about the kinds of people that you associate yourself with, especially when you're trying to implement, something new, whether it's to your existing business or maybe create a new one. There are people that are out there that are supposed to be out there for the cause, not the applause. And
be wise and be vigilant.
That is who I choose to surround myself with. We all have to use social media to share what we're doing because it keeps us relevant. But there are ways to share it where it's not about you all the time.
And I applaud this that you do, because I know we have this in common. I do share pictures of myself, because that's what's friends. But every time I share a picture, there's a lesson above. There's a comment. There's something to pick their brain so they start thinking, and a self-reflection. My goal is to always bring them to their situation of life, where they are, and to implement whatever I can share. If it's a story, if it's a message, if it's just a word of the day that I can share with them, for them to apply it and see where they are and how they can use it.
Me too.
And that's how I stay authentic. I believe you as well as myself, people knows me for over 20 years. It's almost 30 years in the media, and we did not start it when we were 5, so we're getting out there in age. I want to make sure. We look tiny.
I got carded the other day. I was very excited, but that was because I was wearing a mask.
And we're tiny, both of us, so that's right? But one thing that I believe people that know us can agree with us, we're very authentic. We're original. We stay the same. We grow, we evolve professional, personally, but we can talk to anyone on the street, in the supermarket, wherever. We're approachable. We never acted because we were on TV like somebody. It was just a job, and it was our mission. The way we contribute to our community, the way we did to me, was a service to the community. So that's very important. And people are very smart. They can see through you. So for those new generations of people in the media or whatever type of expertise you have out there that you're sharing with the public, especially through social media, my advice, and so I'm sure you add to this, would be always be yourself.
Yes.
Whether you have a bun and no makeup and you're in tennis shoes or you're all dressed up for a gala, always act yourself. Do not change. Do not put a facade, because that's going to decrease the possibility of success in the long run for you. Do you agree with this?
Well, yes, absolutely. People see through that. And I think one of the things that I love about social media is the fact that I can be that authentic person who is multi-layered, whereas I think when we were doing television news, you know, you are representing a major company corporation. And so you cannot put too much out there. So you're very limited. You're in a box, literally and figuratively. And so now I think that if you go through my social media, you might see some, you know, selfies of me, but there's always a part of me that I'm sharing for that particular reason. Sometimes it's just a funny little one-liner, but I tend to use it more as like a personal blog, because there are a lot of things to me than just somebody who is in front of a camera. So I think my biggest advice would be for people who are coming up in the news business, in front of the camera, what have you, is that you just have to be authentic. And, you know, when you make a mistake, it's okay to say I made a mistake. And, you know, if the timing is right or the situation's right, to laugh about it. That's what people remember, and that's what people care about.
I love laughing, and I laugh about myself most of the time. You know, the things that I've done, I share those things, and I agree with you 100% on the recommendation. I believe that's the way we connect. And now this day, social media marketing is the way to connect to people. Bottom line, we are so grateful. I started in radio. I did a little bit of print media, and most of my career was on TV. And I'm so grateful for those platforms, because they build the professional that I am now. They build my character and enhance my character as a person also. But also I understand that we have to evolve with the times, and everything is social media now. If you're not in the platforms, just like the corporations, the companies, the organizations, if they're not reaching their future clients through social media, they're getting outdated. In the Latino buy empowered, I mean, you've been at Tatos, you know that those numbers don't lie. So
no, they don't.
Passion. If you have an accent with myself, you can roll your R, you're going to make a lot of money, right?
Well, I can roll my R's.
I know you can. In many ways, I want to thank you. This conversation could keep going on and on. We have a lot of catching up to do. I'm very respectful of your time and very grateful, because I know through our conversation, a lot of people are going to find bits and pieces of themselves. And that's the purpose behind Con Mari Rabago. So we can actually empower, inspire, and to those people that probably are lost and they don't know how or what to do with this situations that we're living, that they can find alignment in our conversation. And we have gone through those struggles, knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel too.
Absolutely. There always is. We got to have faith, you know, have faith in your talent and your abilities, because jobs come and go. People can take jobs away from you, but they can never take away your innate talent and your abilities. And so sometimes it just means slowing down, pausing, taking a breath, and remembering that you have those and thinking outside the box. What can I do with them? And don't be afraid to ask for help, because most people, in my experience, are willing to give it.
Awesome. Before we close the conversation, tell them where they can follow you. What are you up to right now? Where they can connect with you.
So I have the YouTube series Conversations with Catherine. So if you go to YouTube, look up Catherine Anaya, subscribe there, and you will get to see all of my past episodes and be tied into my future episodes. I also host a podcast, the Women's Eye Podcast. You can go to Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, find the Women's Eye. And I am all over social media, as you know. Catherine Anaya, very easy to find. My website, very easy, catherineanaya.com. And yes, I am just constantly looking at new ways to continue doing what I love to do, and that is connecting, communicating, and sharing people's stories.
Well, thank you for inspiring. Thank you for your friendship, your time. It's been delightful to conversate with you today, Catherine. Much success.
Thank you.
With your loved ones.
Thank you. I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of you. We got to celebrate soon, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. There's a bottle of wine that has your name on it over here.
Okay. We'll be texting soon then. Thank you so much. Un abrazo fuerte, amiga, y bendiciones para ti.
Adios, amiga.
Hasta luego. Bye-bye.